Yeah, one of my favorite questions. And I will say I kind of have a little bit of a hot take on this because design matters a lot less than you think.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Highlight of Business Podcast for business people. And today, I'm super excited to have a new business friend of mine. God, I've said business a lot in the intro to this show, and I think it's because I'm nervous because I have this legend of internet marketing, this guy who's like an absolute wizard when it comes to building websites. And I know what he'll do. He'll get on here and be like, oh, I got a great team. There's about 10 of us now. We're crushing it. We're building this, but it's all of them. But no, Nicholas Reed from 253 Media, the founder of 253 Media, is that guy. And I happened to bump into him at a conference in a hotel elevator of all places. And I'm so glad I did, Nicholas, man. Welcome to the show. I'm glad we're friends now. That was a great meeting. So I'm glad we got to do that.
Yeah, Chandler, man, this is great. I'm super excited. I can honestly say that was probably like the biggest hype intro I've ever had coming onto a podcast. So I just got extra excited to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
That's right, man. I'm a really bad marketer. I set the bar very high, and I'm like, hey, you just got to go over it now. So, no pressure on your end.
Well, I guess I'll just really have to bring the heat for everybody.
There you
go.
go.
We'll make it work today. I like it, man. No, I'm super excited to be here. And yeah, it was an absolute pleasure meeting you. I love those random encounters like that. I think that's probably my favorite part of going to some of these conferences is you get so much information like at the event, but then you meet these random people and then you become friends. And now it's like my best friends have all been to these different conferences, and I feel like that's what's so cool about this world. So,
yeah.
Very, very excited to have met you and happy to be here today.
Well, it's very true, man. And you're the owner of your business. You started it, and I'd love to know more about that.
Yeah.
But like you said, being an entrepreneur can be very isolating. So it is important. Anybody out there that owns a business, find a way to get it plugged into any kind of community because it's just easier to do business when you have friends. You can, I know I can text Nick anytime and be like, hey, man, I got this question on this website thing, and he's happy to answer it, and he knows he can do the paid ads for us. And it's just way more easy, I think, to go through life when you have people like that around. But I'd love to know, man, how did 253 Media start? What got you into the website building world?
Yeah, so we'll throw it back quite a ways. So back in I want to say 14, end of 2013, coming to 2014, I actually started an e-commerce brand. And I was selling cycling socks. I was racing bikes, and all I wanted to do was be a professional cyclist and go race Tour de France and do that. And so I started this business. I need to make some extra money. And, this is back in the glory days when you could get Facebook organic, right? Or Instagram, like no joke, man. I was selling product organically on Instagram. Crazy. Yeah. Wild. And so I started this and I was really enjoying it. I really liked the design. I liked the website side of things. I liked the marketing side, but I realized very quickly that I disliked the fulfillment. And this was back before YouTube was really popping off of how to get a 3PL. I didn't even know what that was. And so I was doing that. It was all good. Did that for about 2 years, very, very small stuff, nothing crazy. And I ended up moving to the Netherlands to go race bikes and live that dream. And if you don't know anything about professional cycling, there is zero money to be made unless you win crazy races and you're the best in the world, which unfortunately I was not. And so I needed to make some extra cash. And I was like, well, I was doing this marketing thing with my e-commerce brand that I'd stopped at this point. Why don't I just go and do that for other people? And I had this crazy idea to start an agency. And I was like, this is crazy. This is unheard of. No one does social media marketing. Well, turns out there's this guy named Ty Lopez who was teaching people how to do that. I had no idea. Go figure. And so yeah, I started this agency back in the day, actually as an ad agency, and did all the Facebook ads back in the day. Got very ingrained with car dealerships. Ended up moving back to America. Got hurt. Had to stop racing full time at that point. So didn't really know what to do. And I had this kind of side hustle thing, and I was like, well, might as well just keep it going, right? We're doing good, and let's just keep it going. And so 253 was born in 2017, focusing on automotive lead ads. And one thing led to another. We kept going. And then in I'm going to butcher this. It's been so long. I want to say 18 or 19 when they had their big Supreme Court case and stuff. A lot of our stuff we were doing for automotive went away. So a lot of that targeting stuff became privacy policy and all that kind of stuff you just can't do anymore. And so we were kind of just left stuck. A lot of stuff we were doing, we couldn't do. So I was like, well, why don't we focus more on the post-click? Because dealerships are really bad at that. And so we started focusing really heavily on landing pages and websites. And it just kind of kept going and going and going. And we became a full stack web design and development agency Probably dating back to about 2019, 2020 now. And yeah, so that's really the story of 253. I don't get to talk about that too often, so
That's cool.
thank you.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't get to hear your cycling story at the conference, and so that's that was new for me. Even that was. I have more questions
Oh,
about that, but I'll save them for our personal coffees later on. Well, when
that's
did you
funny.
guys switch to like e-com Shopify sites? At least that was what I kind of got the impression from clicking around on the website. Is like that's kind of the heavy focus now, or at least the hopefully
Yeah.
intentional focus.
Yeah, so it's funny because we're about 50-50
Okay.
between Shopify and Webflow. So we're split very much down the middle. Some months we're heavier on Shopify, some months we're heavier on Webflow. Like right now coming into Black Friday, like we are deep in Shopify. But that was right around the same time. So really when we started making that transition over to websites, like honestly, we just started growing very quickly organically
Hmm.
because we were posting more like website stuff. And so people were just like, hey, like I need a website. I need a website. I need a landing page. Can you do this for my e-commerce brand? Can you do this for my software company? And we just became like the website people very
Hmm.
quickly. And obviously Shopify is great for e-com. Webflow is great for non-e-com stuff. And so we just really found our home on those two platforms, not necessarily on purpose, but more out of just like we had people who needed that solution. And so now we really have a solution for any kind of business. But that was really how we found our e-commerce was we just needed a solution for e-commerce and Shopify the best.
Gotcha. We have a lot of clients
Yeah.
on on Shopify just because we have so many e-commerce clients. That's probably the main
Mhm.
focus of Highbeam. But I'm not exactly sure what Webflow is. What is that, and how's it different than Shopify?
Yeah, so Webflow is it's another website development platform. It's just made for non-web or for non-e-commerce brands.
Okay.
So software, agencies, local business, those are probably like our three like big areas there.
Mm,
Basically what it is a place to build a custom website with no code or low code, as we would
mm,
say. Think of it like WordPress, where you can just kind of build there. But what's nice about it is it's closed source. So it's not open source, meaning that you don't have all these plugins and all this stuff like there. You can build whatever you want. You're not stuck to any templates or anything. You literally start with like a blank white screen, and you can build anything you want. So it's very very powerful. It's also very fast. It's unlimited flexibility, total design control. What's also really nice about it is it does have a somewhat steep learning curve, but once you build it, it's really easy to maintain.
mm.
So like we've got clients from like 2018, 2019, from when we were like doing like ads and website stuff. Uh, Literally have not touched their website since then, and it's totally yeah, it's crazy. I had a
Wow.
call last week actually with a guy. He reached out to me. He's like, "Hey, like I forgot my login. Can you help me? Like I need to add some stuff." And I was like, "Whoa, you're around still? That's crazy." Like I mean, literally it was like 2019, so it's
Well,
kind of
that's
cool. But
I,
yeah,
I mean, in a world where we see some websites and it looks like it has been updated since '95, I guess it's a good thing that they still like hold up some of the design
yeah.
aspects. That's good.
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool. It's a pretty slick platform. The only thing is it's the e-commerce, and I love Webflow. It's great. Man, the e-commerce is terrible on it though.
Yeah.
So
Well,
we anything
I
you can
want
always go to Shopify.
I want to come back to that, and I want to ask why Shopify versus some other platforms. But I want to
Yeah,
start with a little bit broader picture, if that's all right. So when
of
we
course.
look at, you know, I have a lot of friends that are in D2C, and they have these consumer products or whatever, and they're looking at, okay, should I go Amazon? Should I go wholesale? Should I have my own e-commerce platform? And then what they end up doing is a little bit of all of it, and it's kind of all not very good. And so, like specifically on the Amazon versus owning your own platform, like whether it's built on Shopify or not right now doesn't really matter, but like why would you suggest, as somebody that's worked with a ton of brands, like, hey, even if you're on Amazon, still you need to have your own space? Like what's the benefit to that where so much frictionless traffic happens on Amazon?
hmm No, I love Amazon. And I'll be honest, I don't know a ton about the Amazon platform just because like we don't do that. It's not my area of expertise there by any means. With that being said, though, Amazon is fantastic. It's a free channel to you, or not really a free channel, but it is a channel to use to get eyeballs, right? You can get your traffic there, you can get sales there, but it's kind of its own thing. Now, what I like about Shopify is exactly what you said. You own your audience. So tomorrow, Amazon could take you off. Then what?
Mm,
You don't know. So what happens, and I would say actually a really good example to illustrate this is with us as an agency, what happened to us in 2018, 2019, 2020 with that Facebook Supreme Court case. So back then we were all 100% Facebook ads, and we would do some landing pages and stuff like that, but it was like in support of our Facebook ads. And everything we were doing was contingent on some of these features that Facebook had back then. Well, that went away. Everything we did went away. We had no business overnight, and we had to adapt very, very quickly because, I mean, literally everything was gone. Like, wake up in the morning and everything is gone. And the same thing can be true with that Amazon versus Shopify. It really shouldn't be Amazon versus Shopify. It should be Amazon and Shopify. Amazon is a channel, and don't get me wrong, some people make an absolute killing. They can run their entire business there. That's phenomenal. It's fantastic. But at any given time, Amazon can say, no more. You're done. Shopify can do that too, but it's much easier to take an audience you had on Shopify and put it on a different platform or your own platform or whatever, versus it is Amazon. Amazon could take your product and make it tomorrow and you are gone. That's what we call Amazon Basics. We see that all the time. Amazon can remove you from their site at any time and your business is gone. What happens, the problem now is if you have fixed costs, if you have overhead, product development, employees, etc., you are in trouble. What do? There is zero control. That's fine if you want to take that risk. But if you don't want to have that risk, diversification is key. It's like putting all your stock in, or all your money in one stock. That stock can go to zero and you're done, right? You lose all your money. Not saying that Amazon would do that, but it is a risk. And so having all of your eggs in one basket, like, you just don't necessarily want to do that, especially when you don't have complete control of that.
We have clients that are, supplement companies or healthcare type brands, and they're constantly getting flagged for this reason or that reason. And then all of a sudden a suite of their products are down on the Amazon site, and we have to go in and pivot their ads around to be able to push content or push the traffic to their Shopify stores so that they can continue to sell. And it is true that if you can own your own platform, it's much better. And not even mentioned yet was the power of email marketing and driving revenue today. And you don't get that option on Amazon. Like, you can pay their ad platform. We run a ton of digital ads for people on Amazon. It's very powerful. But we see it time and time and time again. Having a robust email marketing option is also a great way to continue to drive revenue or drive traffic back to your own website to get people to do something, even if it's a one-off sale or something like that. It's not super easy to stand up on Amazon. So yeah, I'm with you. You got to own your own platform for sure.
Yeah, we go through, these crazy audits with people with email, and it's funny, we see a lot of people don't utilize it enough, or the opposite, where they're very much reliant on email. I'm like, hey, you got to get more people in your ecosystem here. But again, it is control, right? It's not just control over your audience, it's control how you're driving traffic to your brand, what you're pushing to them, what combinations you can do of like marketing channel mixes and stuff like that. You just don't have, you have very few levers you can pull on Amazon, right? When you start getting off of Amazon, you have like your own platform, own even Shopify's. I'm going to say that that's an own platform, a little iffy there. But when you have your own platform there, you have a lot more levers you can pull. You can get a lot more creative with how you want to, frame your products, different angles, different offers. Like, you can do so much more versus with Amazon, you're kind of in a box, and unfortunately, you're in Jeff's box in that one.
Yeah.
So there's only so much you can do there, unfortunately, right. Which, don't get me wrong, I love Amazon. I think Amazon's great. I think most brands should be there, but you just don't have as many levers to pull.
Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. So then let's say they've sold on the idea of like, all right, I got to have my own space. So I have Shopify as an option with you guys, or like I've seen plenty of podcast ads about you can build your website on Squarespace, or I've seen a YouTube pre-roll ad for Wix, or I've seen, unfortunately, so much of the internet still built on WordPress and that nightmare solution. So like, I'm biased, but like, why would you pick Shopify for an e-com brand over one of those other options?
Yeah, it's a very good question. And I will be the first to say that Shopify is not like I would say it is the gold standard of e-commerce, but these other platforms are very good too. Squarespace is great. WooCommerce is great. Wix is great, right? You can run a very successful business on these platforms. But when it comes to Shopify, there's a few things. Number one, it's built specifically for e-commerce. So everything that it does, all of the entire platform is tailored to selling a product. Whereas Wix is kind of like a, jack of all trades, right? Squarespace, kind of a jack of all trades. WordPress is kind of its own thing, right? You've got WooCommerce in there. It's made for e-commerce. I would say that would be like your next viable competitor to Shopify. But with WooCommerce, it can be very buggy. You can have a lot of issues. Typically what we see, and like we do a lot of migrations from WooCommerce to Shopify. because you need to have a lot more maintenance there, right? And this is not the case for everybody. And this is definitely a generalization. There are some WooCommerce sites that are phenomenal, but in general, you're going to run into a lot more updates, a lot more upkeep time. You do have more flexibility, but it is just more development time. It is more of a hands-on platform. Other things, it can also be very tricky to update. Again, going back to more development time, paying for developers. Shopify, you can do a lot of that stuff yourself on that platform, especially like once it's built. So like for us, we build something, usually like as a business owner, you can do most of the stuff you're going to want to do once it's built. So that's something to really think about with WooCommerce. Another thing is integrations. I mean, WooCommerce obviously has their plugins, Shopify has their apps. A lot of times, though, a lot of these apps on Shopify, I would say are on average probably a higher quality app. A lot of the plugins we've seen some pretty iffy ones. So they don't always talk to each other very well. You can run into some issues with compatibility, especially with like updates, some things getting updated, some stuff not. Shopify, you just don't really have those kinds of issues. So I would say it's just a little bit more consistent there. So overall, and like maintenance cost is less, a little more consistency on the app side of things. And then it's just really built for it. I mean, a lot of like our other partners, like email partners, ad partners, 3PL partners, people like that, they know Shopify so well. And what's also nice, and I'd say probably the other big thing on here is a Shopify site from like a partner perspective, they're kind of all the same-ish. Whereas you get into WooCommerce, you might have some crazy custom build that no one knows how to use. So now it's like, well, what do I do? If you hire another agency, that you're kind of stuck. So a lot of times we see with WooCommerce, you can kind of get yourself in a box like with the developers there, which again goes back to control, right? Not every relationship is going to last forever. So that is something to also think about with just how WooCommerce is built. We've seen some pretty wonky builds on WooCommerce before. So Shopify usually is a lot more consistent there.
Yeah, I co-sign that totally. We are an ad agency, 20 plus clients at this point, and the ones that are on Shopify, it's a much easier relationship for us. It's much easier for us to work with their web developer, whoever's building it, or us to go in and put in different MarTech options, tracking pixels and whatnot. I'm not going to get too ahead of my skis. That's what Ben Tonak, my partner, is for. Like, he'll come in and tell you how to do it.
Yeah.
But it's just so much better from a user friendly standpoint, like you're saying. For us running ads, like, you can track things so much better, it seems like, and we're getting a lot better comps between Shopify's data and what we're seeing in GA or what we're seeing in the Meta platform as well. So I 100% agree with that. So now that we're like, okay, cool, like, I'm going to build it on Shopify, I've considered these options, I want to own my own platform, I pick Shopify, working with you guys, like, what are the elements that actually make up a great e-com Shopify site? Because I've been to a lot of them and I've seen a wide gambit, and I'd love to know, what are they wasting their time on? Like, what do they need to get so they can ultimately increase CRO or increase conversions in general?
Yeah, one of my favorite questions. And I will say I kind of have a little bit of a hot take on this, because design matters a lot less than you think. So I say this on every single discovery call. I say this on every single sales call. Every single client we ever work with, we say this because this is really our philosophy of how we build. And it's your website has one goal. That's it. The goal of your website is to give your customers or your prospects the information they need to make an educated buying decision. That is it. So think of it like this. What do you need to actually make your purchase? You need to know size. When do I get it? What do I do if I don't like it? For example, is this the right product to solve my problem? Right? Do I actually need this problem? Can I afford this product? Stuff like that. So everything that your website does needs to answer questions that your customer has. So think of it like this. You go into a store, right? Just like a brick and mortar store. You're browsing around. You find your product. You're going to have a question about it, right? So in real life, you're not going to have shipping questions, but in e-commerce, you will. What about the return policy? What if I don't like it? I buy a shirt, doesn't fit me. What do I do? Those are the kinds of questions that people are asking. And then also, like, is this the right product to help me reach my goals? So you mentioned supplements earlier. Really, really good example. Who is this supplement for? Let's say I'm trying to get big. I'm trying to enter some fitness competitions. I need to have the right supplements for that versus an endurance athlete who needs a very different kind of supplement. So when you think about that, it really comes into, is this product solving my problem? Is this product going to help me go from A to Z where I want to go? It's all your website needs to do. And the more clear you can do that, the better off you're going to be. So big, long-winded answer there for more of a concept. But as far as like nitty-gritty things, really, I wouldn't say there's like a lot of like, you absolutely have to have this one thing. Because really it's information, right? It is giving people the information in a way that it's easy to digest and easy for them to understand, right? Plus, fine, like you wouldn't want to have all of your information. You have to go through all these different pages and all this like craziness. Like, how can I get them all the information they need as quickly as possible?
Yeah.
It's really what it comes down to. I would say one other big thing on there, one caveat, is your content. So one thing I see with brands a lot of times, and I say this quite often, it's the difference between a bad website and a good website is structure, right? It's information, it's how the website is built, it's what that overall flow is. But the difference between a good website and a great website is content, right? It is identifying with the audience. It is basically saying, when I land on this site, I know exactly that I belong here. This product is for me if I fit this genre. So a few brands that do a very, very good job with this. I think Cuts Clothing is probably one of the best at this, right? Because they're selling blank t-shirts. They have a black t-shirt. That nothing's harder to sell than a black t-shirt that's $70. But I can't go to the store and look at and like feel, right? So it's very, very tough to do that. But when you go on there, if you want to be in that audience, if you're like, hey, this guy is what I want to look like, or this girl is who I want to look like, then I'm in the right place. And the content is really how they do that. The content is what sells the vision of how you're going to feel using this product. Same thing with supplements. If you're selling these protein powders that you're trying to get people to get jacked, you're going to show some people who are jacked, right? I'm going to be like, oh, if I want to look like that, the only thing stopping me from looking where I am now versus this guy that's huge is this protein powder or this other supplement. Like, that's what I need, and that's what's going to help me reach my goal. So it's having that content to really identify your audience and help people visualize going from A to Z. That's what makes a great website. So it's information and audience identification.
Yeah.
I would say those are our two biggest things.
No, that's good. Time and time again, that we have the same conversation with new clients. It's like, who's this for? Who do you serve? Like, that's what we always start with. Because on our end of things, we're targeting people, and like, I can't build a targeting campaign based off of, well, we really are for everybody. And I'm like, I love the spirit behind wanting to be for everybody because you want to serve everybody. I get that. I love that. But you can't. And you kind of have to solve one specific problem for one group of people specifically. So like Cuts Clothing is a good example of that. Like their thing is like business owners, right? Like entrepreneurship, like hustle thing.
Yeah, it's
right?
a business of sport. Or I'm sorry, the sport of business.
Yeah. So like that is a clear direction of like, cool, if I'm identifying as that, then I'm going to wear a $70 shirt. And like, that says something about me. Like, it's like my wife wouldn't wear that because she's not an entrepreneur. She doesn't really vibe with that. So like, it totally makes sense. And so there is something to committing to one audience that, especially when you're smaller, it works. And like even companies that are larger, like Nike, like they kind of have this brand dilution over a certain point where they have to fight really hard to say like, how do you have a shoe that is both for being a better long distance runner and then one that's more for high fashion, right? With like Jordans or sneaker culture or something like that. Because you can't just do it. Like just do it doesn't really apply as a tagline to like the sneaker culture. Like it doesn't really work, right? So it's even those guys, even as big as they are, as big as their budgets are, as big as their teams are, they still struggle with identification within the like which one is their ICP and who's not. And then the other thing that came to mind while you were talking there was like my first business was a barbecue restaurant. And I've been using this analogy for people that are struggling to build their websites because they want to put everything on there. They're very passionate about it. They want to put everything possible on there. And I'm like, really, what you said was perfect. Like, what is the one thing you want them to do? Like, how do you get them to do that? So like when you would come into my barbecue restaurant back in the day, I wanted you to walk in the front door. There was a cattle call that sort of like put you into a line to walk you to the register where you could see the menu and what things cost, and you could smell what the food we were cooking was. You could see the food coming out of the kitchen as we were delivering it. Like, so every element you just listed out about what made a good website is exactly what made the restaurant work, because it was a clear process of coming in, ordering, you knew what you were getting, you sit down, it was all seamless. And so many people's websites are like, they have like 10 different goals on there. And it's like, what's the one goal you actually want them to do? And so I love that a lot. But you did say something about, what is it? Form over design, right? Like or function over design, right? It's
basically, yeah.
Yeah. So like because design still matters, right? And design is creating feelings and all that. So like, what is your thoughts on design? Like, how do you balance that out? Because there is a balancing act there, I would imagine. But design is the fun, sexy thing we like to look at because it's like pretty pictures, makes us feel good. But it's like it didn't really help my bottom line.
Yeah, so design does a few different things. And when I say design doesn't matter, I would say it doesn't matter as much as people think it does. One of the biggest hangups we have is people are like, they get hyper focused on specific design elements. I'm like, dude, that's not going to make a difference whatsoever. That is 100% subjective. If you like it, that's fine. If you don't like it, that's fine too. I'm just saying, like, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to change conversions. Now, a few things that are very important for design: consistency. Do you ever go to a website and you're just like, it just feels a little off. Like there's something feels off on the site. Does that ever happen to you?
Oh yeah.
Reason why is there probably is something off, and usually that's going to come down to consistency. So font sizes, font weights different, font size, like a different actual font families, spacing, border radius inconsistency, button inconsistency. Like when you start having those what we would call like style guide inconsistencies, your site's going to feel off very, very quickly. But when you say, okay, we're going to tidy up everything, everything is going to be consistent. You're going to have a consistent structure to our site. That actually goes a lot further than you think. And then you can start getting creative with different design elements. Other thing design is going to do is actually, I guess it's going to be two big things. One, design is going to set the tone for your brand. So if you are black, white, and red, you're probably going to be a little more on the aggressive side versus if you're creams and pastel colors, a lot more fun, happy, soft feeling, right? Very different brand tone, right? So for example, your big protein bodybuilder brand, that's not going to be a pastel brand, right? Very different vibe versus if someone's like, I'm just going to go crush the gym today, I'm going to set my PRs. That's not pastels. That's aggressive. Very, very different tonality, right? So that's where our design can really, really influence that. So design leads to tonality. The other thing with design, I'd say probably the more important piece of design is using design to get people that information. So for example, a giant paragraph, or a massive, multiple paragraphs, a whole page of text. Nobody is going to read that entire thing. They're just not going to do it. I'm sorry. It might be the best copy ever. You might have paid $1 million for that copy, but no one's going to read it. So instead, using your design to get people to look where they want to look or where they need to look or where you want them to look. That's what we can use for design. So that's going to influence how people are consuming your content on your site, both written, visual, and just information on there, right? You need to have a design to really guide people to the right thing. So, for example, one of my favorite sections is very, very simple, but I think it's very effective. Is just simple like 2-column grid, image left, text right, heading, maybe a small paragraph, 1 or 2 sentences there, some icons with some like key topics. That section is so impactful because people will look at every little bit of that section. They're going to see the image. They're going to read the heading because people read headings. They're probably going to read, 1 or 2 lines of text. They'll do that. And then those bullets or those icons with some more information in there, people will consume all of that. It's quick, to the point, and it's very, very impactful. And that is design. That is one thing about design where we can say, hey, using the structure like this, we can get people to actually read what we have to say, actually going to consume that information. So that's where I think design is very important. Now with design, you can also get very overwhelming. So you want to be very careful with that. If you have, a bunch of stuff like moving around and flying in and jerky and choppy, well, now you're going to hurt yourself on design. You don't want that, right? So you want to have a good balance. And the whole goal of the design is to get people to focus on one specific thing. That's where design comes into play.
Yeah, I've probably looked at 500 Shopify sites specifically this year, just trying to meet people and learn about businesses and do some business development on my end. And when you go on these websites, you start to see patterns for different things, and you see what's best practices in the industry or what themes and Shopify stores get copied across, yada, yada. But the ones, I'm not a design expert at all, so please don't hear me say that. But there is something about probably 10 to 15% of these sites that when you hit them, like when you hit the main landing page, there's almost an immediate visceral reaction of, I don't trust this brand. I'm not giving them any money. And there's something about the design just looks incomplete or bad or fake, or like an 8th grader did it for a high school project. It's just the style guide thing that you mentioned was really good. I think I can't say how many times we've gone to make ads for people, and this is like a $3 million business, and we're like, hey, can we see your style guide so we can make sure we don't mess anything up? And they're like, what is that? And I'm like, oh no. Yeah. So we gotta walk it back.
Man, it's crazy you say that. I mean, that's like one of the first questions we ask, right? Is, well, do you have a brand guideline? 8 out of 10 of them don't. It's crazy to me. Yeah. Like 8 out of 10 I mean, that could be a exaggeration or even undershooting it, but if I was to guess, I'd say about 8 and 10 don't have one.
Yeah.
And it makes things very tricky because, like, on our side, how are we going to design something without that? If you don't have one, we got to make one for you, which is fine. But you're not going to have consistency across anything.
Mm.
right? That same tonality needs to be apparent in your ads, needs to be apparent in your emails too. So having that consistency across the board is very important.
Yeah. Yeah. Your brand has to be consistent across the board. And I think that helps with conversion rates too. And I think a lot of this conversation helps with conversion rate optimization and helping us, get things to do better. But I'd love to know if there's other like tips or tricks you have that you go to a site and you're like, oh, this is definitely a thing we got to do to increase conversion rates. Maybe 2 or 3 things that you're like, it's 80% of the stuff. Like this is what they're missing when their conversion rates aren't what they want them to be.
Yeah, I'd say a few things that are very important. I'll give you a couple website things, and I'll give you probably the more important thing, which honestly is not a website thing. So let's actually start with that, because I think that would be more educational probably to help like kind of illustrate my point here. So a good example with conversion rate and why a lot of times it's actually not your website. I had an audit last week. The conversion rate was not very good, but we look at it and we're like, well, your website's pretty good. What's wrong? First glance, you're like, this doesn't make sense to the point where this website should convert. What happens? Well, a lot of times it's your traffic quality, right?
Mm.
Who are you bringing to this? So, for example, let's say you are, let's say you're a designer clothing brand. You're a very expensive designer clothing brand, and you're marketing to people that A, you don't ship to, or B, can't afford your product. Well, yeah, of course your conversion rate is going to be zero. Like, what do you expect, right? Or if you're Ferrari and you're marketing to, high school kids, well, yeah, they're not going to buy your car, man. I'm sorry. You're going to have zero conversions. So when you think of it like that, traffic quality is one of the most important things that impacts your conversion rate. So for most e-commerce brands, I'd say the vast majority, probably everyone listening to here, you have Facebook ads running, you've got Shopify, and you've got Klaviyo, right? You're doing those. Those are your three big channels. Maybe you're doing TikTok or some of the other channels, but those are probably your two big ones there. So what do we think about? Are we getting just new people in the door who've never heard of our brand? Well, you're probably going to have a lower conversion rate there. Or if you're on the flip side of that, are you just doing email marketing to bring people back who've already purchased? If that's the case, you're probably going to have a very high conversion rate. It's going to be overinflated. So thinking of it that way, it's understanding where your traffic is coming from, what
Mm.
offer you're running to them, and really like that traffic quality. And I would say, honestly, that's probably one of the biggest swings you can have in your conversion rate.
Yeah.
Assuming your website is like good, right? A
Yeah.
good website is fine.
Yeah, I
That's
want to
going to be
add
a big thing
to
though. Yeah.
real quick before you go into like the other tactical things, just from this philosophical point. We see people all the time with high beam, like they get addicted to the return on ad spend ads, and what you're talking about here is exactly that. It's a hey, I'm just sending emails to people that already know who I am, and I'm just recycling um, old leads, old old traffic that
Mm-hmm.
already knows me or already likes me, and those people start to atrophy out and they start to disappear. And then you look at you're like, hey, our return on ad spend numbers are good, our conversion rate is good. Like, why are our sales going down? And it's like, well, you've not gone out and done the brand building work and the awareness work and the things you need to do to bring new people in because people fall out, And so,
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot to that. And I really like that you called that out.
Yeah, it's something that most people don't think about when they think about conversion rate. Like very, very few people who we talk to think that it's a traffic problem. And I would say that's one of the bigger drivers for a really high conversion rate or a really low conversion rate.
Mm.
So that's a big thing, and understanding like the traffic quality, but then also where are you sending them on your site? If you have a brand new person and you send them to a product page that has nothing, no information about, anything really than just here, buy our product, well, that's probably not going to be the best use case of that traffic. So that might be, the website problem. So really diagnosing where that pinch point is it traffic and you're having good traffic come to a bad website? Or is it low traffic going to a good website or a bad
Mm.
website too? That'd be really bad. But that's really what we want to start thinking about is that. Now, on the website, let's talk about that because there are a few things that I think are very important that most brands need to have. One, I'm going to say it and it's going to be very cliche because everyone's going to think this. You got to have social proof. Like that's the number one thing. It's like 88% of people read reviews before making a purchase. Like I'm not joking. I literally audited a brand like 2 weeks ago that was like doing like 100K a month, zero reviews. And I was like, what are you guys doing? How do you not have reviews? I,
Blows me away.
beyond me. Blew me away too. I was blown away. I was like, how is this? How? And that's a big thing. So other examples of social proof, though, it's not just reviews. Publications, third-party reviews, influencers, right? People who are using your product, stuff like that. if you can share that, you're going to start getting all of these different kinds of social proof. So a good example, we'll go back to our supplements. I think that's probably one of the easiest examples. You have, your actual customer, your everyday person, this is the greatest thing ever. I got muscles. This is great. You have your athletes, right? So if you're sponsoring like athletes, or you're working with influencers, that's a good thing too, right? If you have someone who's like a professional bodybuilder and they're saying, hey, this is the best protein ever, I love it. Well, yeah, okay, that's great. If a professional's trusting it, that's going to go a long way. And then on the flip side of that, you can also have like your publications, right? So like, Men's Health or Muscle and Fitness or something like that. If they're reviewing it and it's like featured in there, that's a different kind of social proof. So you're starting to get all these different kinds of social proof. It's not just one. So that's a really big thing we talk about. Now, other thing we talk about going on that same line is, are your people actually getting the information they need? So good example here, and I recommend everybody, if you don't have a heat map tool set up at all, please go download one. Like, get that set up like yesterday. Because what we see is as people are going through your site, they're actually not getting the information they need. So for example, last year, we did a website, or a landing page for a pet brand. They were selling like pet like treats and stuff like that. Really high quality, not cheap. They were kind of expensive, but really really good quality brand. And what we saw is their landing page was converting horribly, like really really bad. We look at it, we're like, okay, it's pretty good. You've got a ton of information. You're answering all the questions that I would have as a dog owner. Why aren't people converting? Easy solution. We look at our heat maps. People are going and you have your normal scroll depth. It's about what you'd expect out of it. However, about 15% of people were actually seeing reviews.
Move
No
the
one's
reviews
no one's
up.
reading reviews. You can move the reviews up. So going back to my point earlier, if 88% of people need to read reviews before making a purchase, only 15% of people are seeing reviews. Who's going to buy, right? We're
Yeah.
missing so much of that. And so literally just moving that up, making sure that our biggest drivers for a purchase decision are actually being seen is so important. And that's something
Yeah.
like, especially if you have a good site and you're like, yeah, I've spent some time, I've got my website, it's looking good, I've got the information on there and it's still not working. A lot of times that's why is your order of information is wrong. So, and it's not like a one size fits all being wrong. Like I can't be like, here, do this, 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 and this. It doesn't work like that. It is something that every brand does need to go and look at. But if you do have a good site, you spend some time on it, it's probably that your order is just not working for your customers.
Yeah.
So that would be a pretty big one there too.
Yeah, that's good. The idea of marketing is a bunch of tools in front of you, and then within a website specifically, that's like a certain section of the tool belt. And it's like, yeah, depending on what you're
Mm-hmm.
building means what tools we pull out here. So that there is too often a thing where we look for like one size fits all solutions and like the easy, cheap solution. And it's very rarely the easy, cheap solution that gets you where you're trying to go. Like it might get you 80% of the way there. And then you're going to hit a plateau, which is what most of the clients I end up speaking to are. They're like, hey, I'm frustrated with this thing. And it's like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
what got you here won't get you there, where you're trying to go. And so I think that's really good to have that mentality of like, okay, what tool is actually needed here? It's not carte blanche, like, we got to put reviews at the top every time. It's does it make sense for testing and all the things. So that's good.
Yeah, and another thing that's also, I feel like I keep going back to more like conceptual stuff versus like an individual thing, but I think this is another one that I would say is pretty important, is understanding where you're driving people on your site. So, for example, let's say you're running, new customer acquisition, you're doing prospecting, and you send them over to your product page, but your product page doesn't have a lot of information. It's pretty bland. It's just kind of there. Well, let's say your homepage is really good, right? Or you've got a landing page that's really good. Your collection page is really good. And you've got all of your brand information on there. Well, that's useless because they're not going to see it if you send them right to the product page.
Mm-hmm.
So what has to happen is you need to make sure that where people are entering their buying journey, from there they can go and get that information. So a good example, one thing I love to do on product pages and kind of my concept here as far as structures, your buy box area above the fold area, all that needs to summarize everything. Summary of the product. Is this for you? Is it trustworthy? How much does it cost? All that kind of stuff. And then from there, using that product page, that scrolling on the product page to give people kind of the rest of the information, that nitty gritty stuff. So it's
Mm.
specific product information. Elaborate on the summary from your buy box. Elaborate on your brand. Why should someone buy from you? Right? Going back to cuts. Why are people buying from cuts? That's a great example. Sure, they have a little bit of that up in their buy box, but on their product page, that's going to be below the fold. So using the actual product page as an information driver also is a very, very good thing to do, because not everyone goes through every other page on your website to get to the product page. So making sure that we have that information there to keep building trust, keep doing that, goes a long way. So thinking about building the website around that customer journey is also very important.
Mhm. Why is it that every pop-up that comes up on e-commerce websites, especially Shopify websites, says, "Hey, give us your email and we'll give you 15% off your first order"? It's always 15%. 99 times out of 100. Drove me
Yeah.
crazy. I had this LinkedIn post about it last week. I see it, and I've done, like I said, 500 reviews this year of sites, and it has to be on 99% of them. It's wild that it's that number. Is that
Mhm.
actually a number that works from your angle, or is this a just like internet guru thing, or we're just all lemmings following each other off the cliff and we've picked 15%? Like, that feels insane to me. Like, why? It's such a weird number.
Yeah, that's a very, very good question, and I will say I think that we're kind of playing follow leader on that one a little bit. Um, I'm personally not a big discount guy.
Yeah, same.
That's usually the last thing that I like to do is give a discount. Now some people love giving discounts. That's fine. I don't. And the reason why is, as an e-commerce brand, margin is everything. You literally cannot scale if you do not have a margin.
Mm.
If you're going to give 15% off right off the bat, like why? How are you going to scale? Right? That is 15% that you're losing theoretically. So yes, in a sense that 15% off, you're kind of playing follow leader there. It's safe. Most people can afford that to acquire a customer. It's a safe thing to do, but it's not everything. Right
Mm.
now, don't get me wrong. Like, a good discount is good. Like, people will buy, but that is something that people just see other people doing it and they just kind of roll with that.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably one of those things that people aren't testing enough, and they're really just kind of playing it safe on that more than anything.
Yeah, I'm with you. Unless you're actually running a discount brand where that's part of the bit, like a
Yeah.
Walmart or Dollar General, like where value and savings is part of the ethos of the company. It's a brand hindrance more than anything. Like, I would love all those people to figure out what is the average order value and what is 10% of that, and then give away roughly that amount in a gift card. So, like, say it's like, "Hey, give us your email, we'll give you a $5 gift card or a $10 gift
Hmm.
card." Like, right, like, just frame it as a gift card, because then it doesn't devalue your product, and it actually, like, you're like, "Oh, I got a gift out of this. I didn't just get this
Yeah.
arbitrary like discount thing." Because when I hear discount, it's now that price has been anchored in my brain for that product at that point. Like, you cannot get me to think
Yeah.
I need to pay $100 and now I'm usually paying 85. Like, no chance.
Yep. Yep. And that's the problem, especially with brands that are very, very big on discounts around the holidays. So there are some brands, I use them as an example all the time. Ethica. I don't know if you know them. They're like an
Mm.
activewear brand. Um, Very expensive for what they are. I mean, very, very good product. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. Very good product, but they're not cheap. Uh, they're like, for example, they're like a $35 pair of underwear. Not cheap.
Mm.
But Black Friday comes around, they're $4.
Mm.
It's the
Just
same. It's
wait.
been the same discount for 10 years. Like, I know it's coming. And so, and so, like, I'm not going to buy any other time. I'll buy 15 pairs on Black Friday, but I'm not
Yeah.
buying any other day of the year. So that becomes a big problem. It's exactly what you just said. And so when you start having these massive discounts like that, people expect it, right? That is
Mm.
now the actual price of your product for them. So that is a big problem. You also mentioned free gifts. I love free gifts. One thing I think is very important is giving people an opportunity to, get something special for spending more. We see that work very well. We're actually running a test right now. It's not done yet, so I can't give like final results, but we're up like 80% on conversions with this. Yeah, it's wild. And it's just because we're getting people to have the opportunity to spend a little bit more, making that buying process a little bit easier.
Mm.
So with that, when you start having these different gifts in there, it's like, okay, well, I want that now. I have a reason to get that, right? So not only are you getting them to spend more, but you're also saying, hey, when you have a free gift this week only or something like that, you have a little bit of urgency in there too. So it is something where it's like use it or lose it kind of thing.
Hmm.
So I'm a big fan of stuff like that also.
Yeah, you can start putting in urgency and scarcity and all
Yep.
kind of things. Yeah, I love that. Well, Nicholas, man, I
And
appreciate you. Well, go ahead.
can I say one more thing
Yeah,
on
go for it.
that?
Go for it. Yeah,
This is a prime example of why we like Shopify in addition to Amazon, because you can't do that on Amazon,
that's
right?
right.
That's the kind of stuff that makes Shopify cool. Owning your audience is cool. You can do a lot more stuff with that. Again, that's just one of those levers you can pull without having to rely on Amazon.
Dude, that's full circle. I don't think I could end the show any better
That's
than that.
perfect.
Yeah, you've come
That's
full story
perfect.
circle here. We were back to where we started, and I love that, man. Nicholas, man, I
Sweet.
appreciate you joining me, man. What can we
Yeah.
do for you, man? Any questions? Anything we can do to send people your way or look out
Feel
for?
free. Yeah, you can send all people to us. But no, in all honesty, man, I love working with e-commerce brands. I love working with other agencies. If anyone does have questions about websites, we do reviews all the time. I feel like I'm very, very giving. I just want to help people as much as I can. We have people reach out to us all the time just to get information about how they can improve their site or get one of our checklists or something like that. So if anyone does need that, they do want to review their site, reach out to me. Happy to put that together for you guys.
I love that. Nicholas, man, thank you for joining me. Thank you, everybody out
Yeah.
there, for listening this week. We will see you next time.